In this example, we want to evaluate this geometric series. So let's just talk about terminology. Really what this means is find the value or find the sum for the given series. So at the end of the day, I'm looking for the number that I get when I add up all these terms in this series as defined by the sigma notation. So again, let's kind of break down what this means. This sigma means I want to find the sum. This is my key symbol saying that I'm talking about a series. And I want to take the first term all the way up through the 10th term of this series. And I'm going to use this formula to kind of generate these terms. So what I could do is I could spend the time and plugging in k equals 1, and I would get 3 times 2 to the 0 power plus 3 times 2 to the 2 minus 1, so 2 to the first power plus 3 times 2 to the second power. And I can figure out what all those things are all the way up until 3 times 2 to the 9th power. But that might just be a waste of time. Instead, what we can do is we can try and figure out the pieces of my general formula and apply that to the situation. So I'm going to scrap all of this because I don't need this. What I want to do is I want to look back to my original equation. So what I want to have is I want to find the sum and use u sub 1 times 1 minus r squared, not squared, r to the n, all over 1 minus r. So now I need these pieces. I need to know what my first term is, I need to know what my ratio is, and I need to know n. Well, right off the bat, n is probably the easiest one to spot. That's 10, since this is where the highest term is in my series goes. And then my u sub 1, I got to do a little bit of legwork here. This is going to be u sub 1 is 3 times 2 to the 1 minus 1 power, or just 3 times 2 to the 0, or just 3. So my u sub 1 is going to equal 3. And then finally my r, my common ratio. And hopefully what you can see here is that every single time, since this is a multiplication situation and I'm raising this base to a power, this is kind of like, it's like my base, it's like my growth factor. This is what my ratio is. Let's say you weren't sure though, if you couldn't identify right away if this is what your ratio was, you could list out a couple of terms. U sub 2 is equal to 3 times 2 to the 2 minus 1 power, or 3 times 2 to the first, and that's going to equal 6. Hopefully you can see just between these two terms, this is a doubling going on. And again, if you weren't sure, you could take it out one more term, and you should get 12, and then you can see what that common ratio is. Nothing wrong with that. So my common ratio is positive 2. So now let's just plug stuff into the formula and evaluate. So S sub 10 is going to equal 3 times 1 minus 2 to the 10th power, all over 1 minus 2. So S sub 10 is going to equal 3 times 1 minus, let's see, 2 to the 10th power. That is 2 to the 7th is 128. So 256, 512, 1024. Let me just check that. 2 to the 10th is, okay, good, 1024. So 1 minus 1024 all over negative 1. And really, at this point, I might as well just punch this into the calculator since I'm going to be multiplying this by a large number anyways. So this is going to be 3 times 1 minus 1024. And that is all going to be divided by negative 1. Oops, negative 1. And that should be 3069. 3069. And you know what I might do at this point is it's not a bad idea to double check using the sigma notation in my calculator. So I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to grab my sum by going to math, and I'm looking for my summation. And so I'm going to type in x equals 1 to 10. Oh, let me try that again. X equals 1 to 10. And my equation is 3 times 2 to the x minus 1 power. And I'll close up that parenthesis. So hopefully we'll get the same number. And oh, I have a problem with my syntax. What's my problem? Oh, I got one extra parenthesis in there. So there it is, 3069. We made it. So that's good. So why don't you try an example a lot like that pause the video, give this one a shot, make sure you identify all those terms. And again, remember, if you're not trying these videos, you're not actually practicing what you're learning. So do it right now so it locks into your brain. Pause the video, give this one a shot. Okay, and here's my working out for this one here. I found my 3 important pieces to my series formula, and then I plug stuff in, get a number, and that's what I'm happy with there.